let's start with USFL. You are the executive vice president of the league, and everything gets going in just a couple of months. April 16th, that weekend. Are things moving way too fast right now as you look at the calendar and think about everything that needs to be done for the league as we get set to kick off the USFL?
Listen, we're excited. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and there has been for many months. We've made a number of exciting announcements over the last few months. You can rest assured many more to come in the coming weeks and months through to kick off. But look, it's a lot of work starting a new football league, but we're very confident with what we're building and very excited about the kickoff on April 16th.
We saw ill-timed attempts by the Alliance and the XFL resurrection. Pandemic obviously had a lot to say about what went on there. How much did you guys look at what they did, what they didn't do? What were the lessons learned from their attempts?
Yeah, it's a great question, Paul. There's a number of learnings that we're leaning on as we build out this league, based on the past experience of those leagues you mentioned. I think firstly, it's a misconception that the XFL was a failure last time around. The ratings of the XFL in the 3 weeks that was around for before COVID was actually exceptional. There was outrating the NBA for those 3 weeks. And so based on that and based on other research we've done, we're very, very confident that there is a strong demand for additional football in the spring. I think the lessons that we've learned from previous leagues is that, you need to keep your costs in check. And to that end, we are utilising a hub model for the first 1 to 3 years in Birmingham, Alabama. And that enables us to keep, costs in check and that side of things under control. We have, we think the best broadcast partners of any startup league in history in Fox and NBC. We have the best broadcast exposure, free-to-air broadcast exposure of any league period in the spring, with over half the games being on a free-to-air broadcast television and the other half being on fully distributed cable. And we have, what we think is the best promotion of the league via both Fox and NBC. So, keeping the costs in check, using the hub model, having the broad support of Fox behind us and the media exposure that we have, we think it's a recipe for success.
Well, and Ed, I'm loving the promos of need more football, question mark, that you guys had. The one with the clash with the NASCAR event that aired there. I love seeing that, and it's such a simple premise of football is king in the United States. And I don't know if we could ever have enough. Was that the basis for this idea about reviving the USFL of, hey, instead of just saying the NFL has all of it, let's explore a market outside of the NFL season because people want football ultimately?
That's absolutely right. I mean, as I said, from previous leagues, we've seen that this extra football will definitely rate on television in the springtime. There's a massive amount of talent out there in this country that wants to play professional football. It's good enough to play professional football that might not necessarily make the NFL for any number of reasons. And so those two things combined lead us to believe that this is a product that's really going to resonate.
Ed, how will sports betting fit in with this league as we kick things off in a couple months?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's another kind of key part of our thesis for building this out. If you look at the initial teams that we've picked out of all the USFL teams that we IP that we own, it's no fluke that over half of those teams in legal or have names that are based in legal betting states. You've seen so far as betting's rolled out in the United States that something like 60 or 70% of all user acquisition happens during football season. And so we think by extending that, football window, you'll get significant interest from bettors. And it's fair to say that we've had a lot of inbound from all the leading betting companies wanting to be involved in different ways with the league, either by making markets or by being aligned in some other ways. So, as I said, it's very clear that Americans love betting on football. And so providing an extra 10 or 12 weeks of football to bet on, we think, again, is a winning strategy.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. Of course, I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of Xfl News Hub. And on this week's show, right there, you heard Ed Hartman from the USFL. We'll get into more of his comments later in the show. But we've got, on this week's show, The Rock at the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that. USFL's lack of promotion at the Super Bowl seems to be something that's been on the chatter. USFL NFTs. It was there, it wasn't there. We'll get into that. Plus an update on our fantasy football app. You're going to like that. And so much more, my friend. So how do you get in touch with the show, you ask? Simple. Email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. Or you can go old school. No, we do not accept faxes, but you can leave us a voicemail. 888-430-7692, extension 3. And remember, we always love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find us anywhere: Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Amazon, Spotify, Google, the whole deal. And you can watch XFL Weekend Review live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all of that stuff combined. You can watch it anywhere, or catch us on the podcast on YouTube and, of course, our podcast feed, right? Timeline. XFL Timeline. We talk about this at the beginning of every show. We are 368 days from XFL kickoff. That's right. We're almost in the year countdown type deal. We're also 61 days till the USFL's kickoff, and that's coming up. We're also 9 days away from the USFL quote-unquote draft coming up. So lots of things going down. So people are always like, well, but let's, before we talk about all that stuff, look at the date, February 18th, 2023. And this is what we've been waiting. We were hoping. We saw The Rock on the Super Bowl. He did a great job. He was pumping it up. We'll get into, the relationship maybe between the NFL and the XFL, or maybe there is one, maybe there's not. I thought it was they basically gave him the spotlight, and I thought that was a very unique thing to have him do in particular. Reed brought out the fact that 3 years ago, or a couple of years ago, The Rock did something similar. We'll get into that. But having him on the Super Bowl, we really thought that this Super Bowl week, leading up to the Super Bowl, The Rock, the XFL, we were going to hear something. I've reached out to all sorts of different sources. No one really knows anything, or if there's going to be anything big announcement. But if the XFL on this date, and The Rock and Danny Garcia talked about January 9th. Remember, they came out and said some stuff. I have a feeling February 18th is going to be the day. If they don't, then I don't know, what are they waiting for? But I think on the 18th, which is, I believe it's Friday, the 18th, they will have some type of announcement about something, whether it's a timeline, a breakdown of what's to come, or some kind of big announcements. They have to do this. The USFL is going to get their draft on Wednesday and Thursday, the 23rd and 24th. That's going to take a lot of juice out. Now is the time to do it. For both of these leagues, they need to do something and get something out there. So I think that February 18th could be the day that we hear from the XFL. That's the one I've had penciled in the whole time. So stay tuned. This Friday could be some big things with the USFL. With the XFL making some kind of legitimate announcement. Now, we didn't get anything about the Super Bowl and the XFL, but during the USFL and the XFL, or the USFL lack of promotion during the Super Bowl was kind of strange to me. Now, there was one commercial. I think it played at like 4 o'clock on like the pre-show or something. But other than that, it was radio silence. And that really I'm trying to be an optimist. There's plenty of pessimism on social media about the USFL, and rightly, some of it's deserved. This part really kind of concerned me, because the lack of even one spot. Peacock must have played the spot for Fresh Prince a ton of times. And then I was like, why would they pick? I mean, the selection of The Rock to do that hype thing. I mean, I was like, if you were hyping the Fresh Prince reboot so much, Will Smith could have easily done that announcement and not The Rock. And I believe that the NFL wants a relationship with The Rock, and my pure speculation is that we could see XFL games on the NFL Network. I believe that the reason why the NFL, if you looked at the commercials, that the NFL, they did a great commercial with the kids and the video game players, and then Walter Payton kind of came out. Did you notice that commercial? Did you notice the focus on women's flag football? Now, I don't want to hear about your WOKE, dog whistle, whatever you want to call that. That is not that. This is business, and this isn't a feel-good thing. This is a survival thing. And we know that the NFL, all sports leagues, I mean, CFL gets quite criticized for having an older demographic, but frankly, all these sports have a problem with tapping into the youth. So what better way to, number one, remember there was a whole thing about if 10% of the moms didn't let their kids play football due to concussion scared, that it would cripple the league. That was in that movie with the about the concussions and CTC and all that stuff. When that movie happened and CTC started coming, all of a sudden the NFL was interested in breast cancer awareness, which is great that they do awareness, but there's a business side to all of their moves. Make no mistake about it. So having The Rock on, doing his spiel, and it was great. Everything about it was great. I was so fired up about that. I mean, he did it while the players were on the field ready to kick off. That's what made it unique and different. And somebody like The Rock was promoting the fact that he was doing that on his social media stuff. Now, clearly, you're going to get ratings regardless with the Super Bowl. But between The Rock's appearance and what he brings to the table, that somebody who can bring in not only the older generation, but the younger generation, all my kids know who The Rock is. They know who he is. He is somebody that is so valuable to bring that younger demographic in. And then that commercial that the NFL showed, which I thought was great, with like the video game players, and then the kids were in it, and then the players were talking and they messed up the whole house. I thought that was a brilliant spot. And it was so different from what the NFL has done before. So you could clearly see between the female audience and commercials like that, bringing The Rock in, that they're trying to target that younger demographic, bringing the moms in too. Hey, moms, you can play flag football. I mean, this was not a thing a couple years ago, but they're doing it because they're trying to get the moms into football. And guess what? If the moms are watching football, then the kids will watch football too. I'm sure same thing with the dad, but they're trying to hit it at all angles. So that's why, and plus, we need to even go back to when the XFL and the Danny Garcia, they had the little picture, and remember it was the XFL stuff on the top, and it looked like the NFL's logo on the bottom. Then having The Rock's spot. And my thing with The Rock spot also is it wasn't necessary. There was no need for him to do that. There was no need, just kick off the game, we're ready to go. But they chose to put him in there, and that particular spot, it was just, I think there's something going on between the NFL and XFL. Now, I didn't think that they were going to make any big announcements clearly when he was on the field and be like, hey, check out the XFL. I didn't think that was going to happen at all, especially as we got to past Wednesday. I was like, yeah, they're not saying anything. This is all about the Super Bowl, which is fine. Remember, that media has a vacuum in there. I mean, you're talking this Outkick 360, Outkick.com. I mean, they're affiliated with, they were purchased by Fox. They had a couple of people on from the USFL talking about that. But these shows on Radio Row need to fill time with content. And that's why Oliver Luck would show up and start talking to just kind of get the word out. So I think there's something going on between, that's why I believe that there's something going on between the NFL and the XFL. And I wouldn't be surprised if games were on the NFL network and on some other bigger broadcast things. now that we've kind of put to bed my rock conspiracy theory, what's going on with the NFL and why he was there, whatever, and we'll get into your reaction to that later. The USFL's lack of promotion. So this whole game is going by. I haven't put out a tweet. The WWE got a promo. I can't tell you how many promos the Peacock Network got. You're telling me you couldn't swap out one of those of the 20 that they had and pop in a USFL one? Even after the game was over and Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth were sitting there chit-chatting, and there was like this dead air because they were going to go switch to something. All Al Michaels needed to do is look at Chris Collinsworth and be like, bro. And he could say, bro. Hey, Chris, did you know football is not over yet? Just because the NFL season's done. And then Chris would have said, why, Al? Albert? What are you saying? And he'd be like, well, the USFL is going to be coming up in the spring. They kick off in April. So football is technically not over, and the games are going to be here on NBC. And that's it. And Peacock. He could have just said that. There was dead air. And you wouldn't have to run a spot. It wouldn't have taken anything just for him to say that. But they didn't. When the XFL and Fox came around with the 2020 Super Bowl, I believe there was 2 spots played. I know there was definitely one, and I wasn't that happy about it. And I saw, watching the Super Bowl, I couldn't wait for that spot to hit because traffic went through the roof. Nothing. NBC, it makes me wonder how in is NBC. If they're not willing, you have the mega of all mega football audiences all over Twitter was the football is over, see you in 7 months. I guess that they're like, hey, we'll just put it on TV and then people will show up. But no one really knows about the USFL still. Like, no one really knows. They know about the XFL, and they've heard that The Rock bought the XFL. That's kind of the level of where 90% of the audience is. With the USFL, I mean, I wear my USFL hat everywhere I go, and no one really says anything to me about it. They kind of look at it like USFL must be old school because it's, a little shabby. And I love this hat, by the way. So you have that part where it's like, what's going on with this league? I mean, there's no schedule. There's not like, hey, here's the coaching staff. And we've had, the only thing was the contract, but clearly that was leaked out and not really something that they wanted us to get our hands on, but it was going to happen. The other thing that happened during the Super Bowl, so not only did you have this lack of promotion, but somebody put out a tweet. It was this picture. You could see, I think it's the New Jersey Generals guy standing there. And in the tweet, the guy said something about taking pictures and USFL NFTs. Something that's going to be announced soon or something like that. And we retweeted it, and then it was taken down. I think as soon the USFL is very closed with, which I don't know why. Like, what are you holding on information for? Like, put it out there and let it start regurgitating and people getting excited about it. Yes, they will come as soon as you turn it on, but they don't realize that you're there. I don't think that's a good move. So this picture was up with somebody and their background. I was absolutely involved with NFTs. It was a totally legit thing. It wasn't something that was fake. So there was something going on with USFLs and NFTs, but this, my friends, got taken down. It got taken down. I don't know what the deal is with that. So you have the NFT. So it looks like USFL. So that's what makes everything so confusing. You talk to the people that are involved in the USFL. They are like hyped. We got this. This is going to be awesome. Broskies, you are 60 days away from kickoff, and no one knows that you're kicking off. I know you want to do this as an incubator, but you need to, and it's cute, the videos that they're doing with the coaches and pictures with the coaches. They're putting that out on social media. You're 9 days away from a draft. You could hype that real quick. Getting the coach. I don't know. It just seems very, I'm just concerned. I'm concerned that this league will make it past a year. I don't understand what I mean. I get it. It's like, why go nuts right now when it is April and you think like the attention span is not there, but no one knows that you're even there to begin with. And I think that you're coming at it from the wrong direction. You're not getting people excited about it and talking about it. That's how the game works now. This isn't about having a bunch of spots on television anymore. I think it's a very arcane approach to promoting a product. It's very like 1990s. Hey, we'll just put out a couple commercial spots. It was good. They did the teaser videos, and those were good to kind of let people know out there. But now is go time. It is go time now. The Super Bowl was your kickoff. You have a big commercial, and you put it out there, and you rock and roll. It was just really nothing. Yes, they will come. It's going to be a big deal. You're going to take people by surprise, and they don't know that it's coming, and I think that could be something negative for your product. I am all for the argument of the USFL's business model, but this rollout, I mean, and they didn't have merch ready yet. You could have sold a ton of merch at the same time, you know, hyping this out. People would have bought all sorts of stuff. That's not ready. The draft is next week. I don't know. And then you have this NFT thing. Fine. Let this guy post it, that they might be doing NFTs and get people talking, and hey, you know, can we get a response, whatever. You just get it out there that, hey, the USFL is doing something. That would get picked up on the crypto media channels, that, hey, this new league, this football league like Fan Control Football is doing NFTs, something. It's just been this weird radio silence. Listen at USFL. I know the XFL and I know the USFL watch this show. So if you have a comment or suggestion, leave it on the show because I know that they watch and listen. I don't understand why you're holding all of your information like it's some like top secret thing. Let it out. Let's rock and roll. Let's hype this thing. We've got 2 months to hype it. Let's go. But this idea, like I would have let that guy leave his tweet out and let people talk about that during the Super Bowl. Hey, are they going to have NFTs? What's going on with that? But hey, who knows? Maybe there's other reasons why things aren't going on. But I am, as we get closer and we've followed this thing to a T, I'm a little concerned about the USFL. So that is my rant about the Rocks at the Super Bowl. I wanted to get that out of the way. USFL's lack of promotion at the Super Bowl. I want to hit that. And, of course, the USFL's NFT, which would have been exciting. Just that. You don't need to do much to get the people pumped up, but you're 61 days, bros. 61 days, broskies. And every tweet that I would see on social media talking about Eli Apple, like I don't even understand what he did wrong. Like I felt that, we can, you get into the end of the game and all the calls. I'm like, dude, they're just going to give them this touchdown. But, here nor there, every message was about he should go to the XFL. When Carson Wentz is sounding like he's going to get cut because he's going to make $22 million. And I think he's just not as good as he was after he got hurt. He was great. He was MVP, awesome player. And then something happened and then he's just not the same. Every tweet, dumb, stupid tweet, was all about him going to the XFL. The USFL, and the USFL is not in that, it should be, but it's not in that thought process when it comes to that because people don't know that it exists. And that's the problem. They know the XFL exists. The XFL has done hardly any promotion, but when The Rock puts out a tweet to his 300 million fans on Instagram, that's all you need. And then it gets picked up on different magazines and stuff. I haven't really seen a lot of hype around the USFL. So we'll just leave that as there. So we have other USFL news. We got XFL news about Pep Hamilton. We'll get into that, plus your social media stuff. Well, let's get right into, we'll start with the news, shall we? All right, so we heard at the beginning of the show, USFL Executive Vice President Ed Hartman talk about XFL. He talked about the XFL, and that was one of the interesting things that he said that really kind of struck me. Was first he got the 3 weeks. He said it was 3 weeks. It was 5 weeks. Okay, that's fine. And he talked about keeping the costs in check, which we heard of. But it was that the XFL was outrating the NBA, which shows you the power. But it was hyped, USFL. It was hyped before the launch. You have no hype, but I understand you're doing an incubator and you're trying to slowly grow this thing. You're thinking 5 years out, not right now. The second, I get that too. But he said a lot of things. He talked about the extra time and the interest about moving the games into the spring rather than the fall. He said, talking about the talent, there's a massive amount of talent out there in the country who wants to play professional football, so they're not going to have an idea. So that's basically why Fox Sports decided to do it. That there's plenty of talent out there to fill rosters. A big key of what they were talking about was the sports betting. We heard him talk about that. They talked about the coaches that the USFL hired, which was good in this interview. The question about the USFL plans on connecting with fans from 8 locations, something the Markcast had talked about too, is that they think that they'll be able to connect with fans because Fox has affiliates in those areas, and that's how they're going to connect with fans. I don't think that's. I've seen some of the reporting in the local areas with Brian Woods, and there's nothing really. I mean, they're just letting you know that they're there. I don't know. We can talk about it over and over again. They talk about how Eric Shanks came out with the $10 tickets, which I think was a great idea. Of course, they say we're making some big announcements around merch in the coming weeks. So we're not going to get merch until March, a month before you kick off. You can make money, bros. I don't understand. And expect to see some really fantastic items going on sale again. So there you have it. That was from Ed Hartman talking about the USFL. Other guys in the news this week when it talks about the USFL, Fox CEO Lachlan Murdoch, he talked about the XFL, the USFL and NFL. He said, this was from Brian Steinberg. He said, Fox CEO Murdoch said the NFL helped Fox think through structure and rules of play for the USFL. We control the digital rights. It was asking why, the Fox decided to get in with the USFL. And another interesting note, he also said outside investors in the league have effectively underwritten the league for the next 2 to 3 years, is ambitious but disciplined on its investment in the USFL. Now, I would say outside investors, essentially Alabama, has effectively underwritten the league for a year, 2 or 3 years. I think they'll make it to a second season. I think they will. He also talked about sports betting is seen as a way of increasing monetization of viewing of sports so betting will make them more engaged with us, which is true. And sports wagering ad revenue is our leading category of growth. So this will tap in having the football on there as well. So that was from the Fox CEO. Also, Mr. Brian Woods was talking in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Maulers could be one of the first teams to move home. So we're looking at the strategy. So basically, recently USFL Executive Vice President Hartman talked about this team selection process with the betting things. It says, Brian Woods says, we're looking for is to be strategic. We want to make sure that markets have what they need in terms of resources, maybe potential local investor operations. If the right elements are in place after the first season, it could very likely that Pittsburgh can see the Maulers in Pittsburgh. But you notice how he says, if the resources and local investors are in place, then they might have it, making sure where their home location is. But I don't even think they really have that picked. Honestly, I think he was just kind of, just letting them know that there's a chance at this. He talked to KDKA in Pittsburgh about the whole league. Some possible locations. It basically sounded like they haven't done any kind of thing, and it's not like Pittsburgh is going to be there anytime soon, but they need the right local investors, and it's like this has not been figured out yet, at least. I don't know. Some locations, though, that they brought up Highmark Stadium, Heinz Field, Robert Morris, and Duquesne as some places. But yeah, they talked about Pittsburgh maybe being one of the first teams to move, but when you read the quote, it was kind of like, yeah, if everything kind of falls in place, they could be one of the firsts to go. Was under the assumption that they might have had some of these potential owners in place, but I don't know. I'm just confused by the USFL stuff. And finally, Fox Sports EVP Mike Mulvihill talks about the USFL, why they chose an April start, competition from other sports. Again, he was on Outkick 360, which I never heard of, and they were on location at the Super Bowl. He said the XFL and AAF, they chose to launch immediately after the Super Bowl. We've decided not to do that. We're going to kick off on April 16th, and then our season will end on July 4th weekend. I like this better than what the XFL is going to try to do, is kicking right off because after the Super Bowl. Because I think your league can do well in April, May, and June, July. I think it is wide open. I am not concerned about Major League Baseball. Lit March Madness, he talked about that. He basically, what that allows us to do is give those hundreds of millions of Americans who have interest in football just a chance to rest. And maybe that's not why they promoted the USFL. They're like, let's just let them kind of chill, and then we'll bring it up and they'll be excited. You think of what's on the sports calendar in the next couple of months after we get through the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Winter Olympics is going to run through a week, and then the blink of an eye, you'll have March Madness, which is true. That will take up a lot of attention, and then the Masters weekend. I don't know anybody that stops with some golf friends do, but then once we get through all those big tentpole events, then we'll be ready to come onto the scene. So I think maybe that's why. That's kind of the strategy. And it's like, hey, we don't need to come out right now. The fans they can't chew gum and walk at the same time. So let's keep them, let's let them get through March Madness, and then we can hit them with some football in April. Which, okay. He says, I think the USFL can really hold up its own against properties that are staples of second quarter of the year, whether it's Premier League, Major League Soccer, PGA events, and the NHL playoffs. So they think that their IP, USFL, can do well in that. He then talks about of course, the impact of the Fox and NBC simulcast, which I think will be huge for the league. And being able to find these in the games being on these big networks. And I think that is a great idea. I just don't know why you're not telling anybody about it right now. And then they finished the segment. Mulvihill had a little optimism about season 2. He said guys love to come back in July and talk about our successful first season of the USFL, hear what you think, what you like, what you didn't, and start us getting ready for year 2, because this is going to be around for a while. So we look forward to the first season and beyond. That's the thing. These guys in the front office are like, yeah, we got this, and this is going to be great. Us in the trenches who have seen the Spring League, who've seen fan control football, Major League Football, and all these other leagues, AAF. I think there wouldn't be as such pessimism when it comes to the USFL if it wasn't for the AAF. However, the hype train, when you're 60 days from kicking off, is really not there and could have really gave it a nice kick. I was just looking for one commercial during the Super Bowl. But we didn't get anything. So we'll have to continue. Maybe we'll get the hype train this week when it comes to the USFL. Pep Hamilton. This was sad news. Our XFL news of the week. Pep Hamilton stays with the Texans. Congratulations to Pep Hamilton. He was promoted to offensive coordinator. There was chatter that my other football team, Jacksonville Jaguars, were interested in him. But Pep Hamilton is staying with Lovie Smith, I believe, is the new coach there in the Houston Texans. So he decided to stay there. Of course, everybody here at Xfl News Hub is rooting for you. This probably means that he won't be able to be a coach in the XFL. I was hoping that maybe he wouldn't take one of these jobs, but clearly he's going to get paid more. And this could be maybe getting to a head coaching job one day, so I get it. But kind of me was hoping that, hey, maybe Pep Hamilton was not going to take a promotion because he was talking to the XFL. But they're not going to pay him what he can make as the offensive coordinator in the NFL. So congratulations to Pep. We'll see who our coaches will be in the XFL at some point, right? All right, we'll take a commercial break and be right back with your social media stuff and so much more. Stay tuned.
This week on the Markcast, USFL contract breakdowns. Is that what I'm hearing? Contract breakdowns for the USFL. We'll have all the information. Who do we got talking about that?
I mean, we wanted him this week and we got him. He's radioing in from the Boons. We have Mike Mitchell phoning into the show. So important that we get the updated USFL player contract information and breakdowns for you. League reaction to your article. Last question for me.
Yeah, so I have a lot of conversations with people that are close to these leagues and that are inside these leagues, and I was expecting some blowback, and surprisingly favorable.
Good. Okay.
Good. Because quite frankly, everything I wrote was factual.
So when you say phoning in, you're not saying it in a bad way. You're just saying like he used the phone to call in. Sometimes people say you're phoning it in, but this time it's a good thing because Mike Mitchell always on top of these things. We love having him on the show. Also on the show, Reed's new starting quarterback for his BC Lions, not America's, but his BC Lions, Nathan Rourke.
Now, not to add more pressure to this, but the BC Lions are America's CFL team, right? This is known, right? So knowing that you have the hopes and dreams of America, right, and their team in the CFL as well, does that add any extra pressure at all to your plate heading into this season?
I mean, I just don't want to disappoint you guys, right? So I think absolutely tremendous weight has now been put on my shoulders.
Nathan is just a peach. Nathan is very happy to be carrying the weight, the hopes and dreams of America on his shoulders. Nathan's doing the Lord's work. And then we're breaking down all the CFL free agency, which is just as important as the USFL free agency, with friend of the show, longtime friend Rob Vanstone.
It's almost like you're picking a different fantasy football team every year.
It is.
And maybe it's kind of a partial keeper league where you can keep 4 or 5 players and then everything else goes into the pot. It's tough to build a team. Now, you can rebuild a team in no time if you spend your money wisely, but I don't like it.
That's all happening this week on the Markcast.
All right, my friends, we are back. Remember, if you like football, subscribe to this channel right now and smash that like button. Let's get to 75 likes this week. 75 likes. So take a second, smash the like button, help spread the word to the Google, YouTube algorithm that, hey, there is more football to come. You have the USFL. You have Fan Control Football coming in April. You have the CFL cranking up. Preseason starts in May, June games. And then you have the XFL doing their thing during the summer. All right, let's get into our chat with some of our friends in the chat room. Let's see, we got Serial Moore. The XFL is going to be awesome. I agree with that. Rangers King 669, considering how Mark Ross works for the NFL Network, I would say it's a possibility the XFL to be involved with him. Now, I forgot about that part too. That is interesting as well. Let's see. He also says the USFL doesn't want to set expectations so that people won't be disappointed. True. And expectation, i.e. hype. Stock speed text is similar to TSL. Rookie _X4 on Ryan Reynolds' Instagram. It was a picture of him with Will Ferrell, and it says he'll keep asking me why is there a 4th down. Will Ferrell is a BC Lions fan. Yeah, I saw that. That was a great picture. Repping CFL, which we will repping CFL as well. Theodore King brings up a great point. People have terrible memory retention these days. Telling people about the USFL at the Super Bowl would cost a huge amount of money. Would they remember it in April? Probably not. That actually is a good point that you make. And the other thing too is Listen, these guys that are running the USFL and these Fox executives, they're not dummies. I'm sure there's data that points out that it's just not worth doing. We're just super nerds and we want to get our hands in this stuff and dissect it. But I mean, you can definitely start making some money now with this league, especially with the merch. The rollout just seems to be just kind of trying to pick up steam, I guess. Two things we get before we get into other social media stuff. Number one, speaking of football stuff, people. Do you know what I have that you don't? You know what I have that you don't? That's right. This is my personal NFT. I am Team 8 Okie on Fan Control Football. That's my squad. I minted an NFT. I'm going to have a whole thing about how I did all this stuff. But this is my NFT that I got. So now this gives me access to making decisions and things like that for the team, which is really cool. And it was a lot of fun to kind of learn all this stuff. I'm a nerd, so I like it. I like the wings thing because, God is good. You know me. And so you got this NFT. So if you want to take a picture of it, you could take a picture of it and use it as your screensaver. But here's the thing. You can't sell it to anybody. Only the person who holds the NFT can actually sell it. But this is like some attributes my guy's got. His skin tone, party on, off the field with this do. Goatee, this is Sparka yell on. Just his eyes, 70s dome, metallic mohawk. Just kind of some things about my NFT. So this is coming. NFL is going to do it. NBA does it right now. So you can't criticize Fan Control Football or the USFL for doing it if the NBA is doing it. All the sports leagues are going to do it. You can buy NFTs on DraftKings. I was looking at them earlier during the Super Bowl. This is a new thing that's coming, and it's just another way to generate revenue. And I hope that the NFTs are also tied to the players, not just the leagues. That if I bought a Pep Hamilton XFL NFT or He Hate Me XFL NFT or, whoever's the quarterback of my Tampa Bay Bandits NFT, I would really hope that that the player gets, when that NFT gets bought and sold, that they get a cut of the action. If you do that, that's huge for the players, and that's some long-term stuff, and that's they can make more money maybe just with their NFTs being bought and sold than playing in the league. The other thing I want to talk about before we get into our final segment of the show is fantasy football. That's right. You guys asked about it. Fantasy football, when is it coming? Well, we will have a big announcement next week's show about how you, my friends, can sign up for fantasy football. So it's going to be I've been bouncing this idea all over the place, is that it's under one location. You're going to be able to play USFL, XFL, CFL, Fan Control Football, and AEW Wrestling. All fantasy games, one account, one stop. You can be able to next week. I'm only going to announce it, soft announcement for the podcast listeners. I'll leave a link in there. Working the final designs and the final testing. We'll hopefully have it done this week, and then we will launch it. The idea for what's going to go forward, I'll talk about that next week, but I'm definitely going to be needing some beta testers out there. I think the plan is I'm going to go through. The problem is data. How do you get the data? I do not want to type all of this stuff in, but there's only 8 teams. How do you deal with 8 teams in a league? Well, clearly you can't draft a quarterback, because what if that quarterback gets hurt? You can essentially lock people out of getting a quarterback in this league. So you technically have to just draft the team, and whoever is the quarterback that's your person. Because that happened to me in the other XFL. There was an XFL fantasy league that was not, and that's when I saw it, and I was like, I don't know the guy personally, but I'm a better developer, at least in .NET, and I think this is a lot more robust than what was there before. And I think this will be a real good thing. And I got locked out. So you're going to have a draft and your quarterback gets hurt, and then you have no quarterback because somebody else took, you could start the draft in the first 3 rounds and take a quarterback each round, and there'll be 2 other teams that don't have a quarterback, a starting quarterback. And you'd be like, well, it's sorry about your luck. Well, guess what? Use your brains. Don't be a Neanderthal. The Neanderthal thinking is that first level. My thinking is, well, now that person's not going to play anymore. And then you're going to have a league with nobody playing for the whole season. They don't even do that in regular fantasy football. You're going to really want to have that in a league because you thought it would be cool to draft 4 quarterbacks in the first round, and now no one has a quarterback. I mean, I want to avoid that. So the only way to do it is you have to draft the team. And particularly in the CFL, when it comes to fantasy, you have to do the same thing there. There's bye weeks, and I'm going to have to figure out how that works. But it was so frustrating watching CFL games as you got the starting quarterback, leads the team down to the 1-yard line. They take him out and put the third stringer in, and he runs it in. And now he doesn't get any fantasy points. That happened all the time. So I think by going around just the team's quarterback and you get all the stats for them is kind of a way to go. But I want your feedback, your ideas. We'll have Discord open up so that you can join that. You can message me. And we'll be talking more about the league once it opens up next week. After next week's show, I will tell you where you can go to get to sign up and test it out. Again, this is alpha. This isn't perfected. My goal is to have this perfected by the time the XFL starts. That's the goal. It's not to have a successful, I don't know if we'll be able to do USFL. It depends on what the data looks like. I can probably do CFL. That's my goal, is to try to get through a CFL season. But I have a full-time job. And if I could just stop everything I'm doing and just focus on that, I absolutely would. But I can't. But I've gotten it this far, and I think there's something out there for you guys to just sink your teeth into and see what's coming. So, fantasy football. Next week, I'll announce the URL. You can go sign up. You can create your own league in all these different places. You can invite your friends. They can sign up as well. Soft launch, I'm not going to hype it anywhere else, is coming next week. So you got to stay tuned, my friends. All right, one more segment, and then we'll get you out of here so you can hang out with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. Or maybe you just by yourself want to watch the Book of Boba after this.
What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today.
All right, my friends, we're back. Let's go to the social media stuff on the Facebook chat. Mike wants to know, when do USFL rosters, game schedules, dates come out? 60 days. I mean, granted, you don't have season ticket holders, but don't you want to know? I want to know what the schedule is. How can I build a USFL app if I don't know the schedule? And how? I get you. We all want to know, but they don't. If I would assume if they knew, they would put it out there. But again, if they're like, hey, all this stuff doesn't matter until after March Madness, could be their approach. We might not hear much of anything from the USFL until March when training camp gets underway. But even training camp's right under March Madness, broskies. Just put it out. You'll do fine. It's okay. It's okay. You'll be okay. Just put the stuff out. If you got it, put it out. You'll be fine. We'll cover it. No worries. All right, on to let's go to the Facebooks real quick, talking about your reaction to the lack of promotion of the USFL. And this is you were talking about NBC. Yo, NBC, this is going to be on your channel. You didn't do it because Fox owns it? What's wrong with you, NBC? I don't care about the 10 times that you put on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, it was on all the time. Peacock. You couldn't swap out one of those for a USFL commercial. Tom says, probably not a good thing for the league. Also, they had The Rock during the opening, so maybe something to do with not giving the XFL's potential competition more airtime. No, I just think it's just not, I don't know. I do not know why. You're hyping all these other shows that are going to get canceled before you know it. Always. When they hype shows around Super Bowl, they always never make it. They never make it. I don't know. About Mike Mulvihill talking about the USFL chose the April start date, which is 100% I agree with. Richard says the champion on July 4th is brilliant. It'll be July 2nd. Absolutely. I think the USFL has got the schedule right. That's the time of year you need to drop your league. And then at that time, you'll get, the CFL will start. And Moose Johnson did say in one of the interviews, another EVP, that they timed it so that there's enough time for these players to get calls to camp because camps start in October or August timeframe. So the season will be done. They'll have a chance to rest up and then hit it with NFL camps. But then they'll get cut, and could they sign with the XFL? A whole other different thing. Dave says, don't care. I can do without football until September. Let it go under like the first USFL did. No fan interest. Okay. Jim said, should have been March 1st. Okay. And Ronald says, I still think it should be oh, geez. Not even going to read that. I mean, these people. You know what it is, though? That's probably Russian bots. I'm not going to read that. About the Pittsburgh Maulers having a home team. He says, Saif says no because there won't be a league in 23. Yikes. Tim says they could play in high school stadium or a parking lot of the old Kroger's. And how could it be Highmark Stadium? It's in Orchard Park, not Pittsburgh. That's what the article. I think there's a Highmark Stadium. There is one. I don't know. I did look up that stadium, and there's like Highmark in like Buffalo, and then there's a Highmark in Pittsburgh. Tyler says we've got to find big stadium here in Jackson, Mississippi that'll hold 60. Come on. Pat says I don't understand why they are not playing with their own. We talked about that, why they're doing the cities. Rick says Michigan Panthers first to move home. Again, they're not doing their home cities because they're doing a hub first, my friends. It's a hub first. It's a hub first kind of thing. Instagram. We like our Instagram. About our question, your reaction to the USFL's lack of promotion. Big Proc 96. It's not smart business to bring up small business during big business times. Interesting. I'm glad they didn't because I think it would have made a lot of people mad. This way the XFL and USFL can build hype off their own brands. No coattail riding here, LOL. That's a good point. Interesting take. Drew.Zolhowski says any USFL commercial would have been overshadowed by the game itself. Yeah, but it would have gotten fans talking about it. Hey, there is the USFL coming back. That's all you want to know. You're not saying that the USFL is better than the NFL or stop watching this game, go in the corner and wait until the USFL kicks off again. No, we're just saying, hey, it's there. Hey, it's there. Jorge 13 Miguel was disappointed that The Rock didn't say anything about the XFL, not even a mention. Clearly, I did not expect him to do that when he was hyping it. It would have been cool, but I am a realist and know that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't the time or place for it. Russell, the Truth Seeker, I'm still waiting for some XFL news. Go Battlehawks. I am too. The 18th, my friends, I think that is the time that we get some type of announcement or something like that. I think the 18th is you're going to hear something from the XFL. All right. On to YouTube. Harrison says MLB is the second most profitable sports league in the U.S., according to Jeff Pessan. Local TV deals create a ton of revenue. That's interesting, but it still sucks. Sorry, Harrison. You make a good point. And I think that local revenue is not going to go anywhere because people are going to realize that it's waste of money to do it. Because, yeah, they have a ton. The difference between football and Major League Baseball is that the teams make their money off of the local television network. But if no one's watching it, then that could be a problem. Pip2323 says, when do you expect XFL to drop their cities and TV deals? I don't know if they'll drop it. I think it'll be a timeline or a ramp type thing. At the XFL, I think on the 18th. Hopefully they're not like, hey, we're going to announce something soon on the 18th. I know maybe The Rock slipped, but clearly he wanted to say something. The 2 to 3 weeks thing. Who knows? Maybe they're talking with the CFL again. Some of you guys like that. James Messner, I'm an optimist. I really am, but why are the spring leagues fighting against each other? I think the only way is that the USFL and XFL survive is if they don't restrict their player contracts. The USFL locking players into contracts is a good move, but barring them from any other spring league is a bad move. Let these guys get as much tape as possible so they can go on and do what they need to do and achieve their NFL dreams. Yeah, I agree with that, but they're not thinking that. He said, also listening through the episode and the part about the contracts, Matt loosely despise what I'm hearing about player housing. It almost turns me off from the league, but I still want to give it a chance. These players are coming out of colleges. Junior colleges are very little professional football experience, so let them start somewhere, and that starts by providing things like housing so that they can focus on training, school, and being the best quality player they could be to ensure football future. Very disappointing move by the USFL. True, but remember, these guys are also getting health insurance, and that's a big thing for the year. So, I don't know. That whole thing is kind of sketch. I agree with you there. Like I said, lower the contracts, cover the cost of, and you just say, hey, we're providing them an education, health insurance for a year, and housing. That's why the contracts are blah. That's a potential way to kind of skirt any kind of issue there. All righty, my friends, on to the Twitter. Even Dave Naylor, who's never been on my show, but he's been on everybody else's show, CFL reporter, says, so would the NFL give a role to The Rock if there wasn't going to be some relationship between the NFL and the XFL? Again, that's what I was thinking. I said this Rock pre-kickoff hype thing was actually not necessary, but The Rock brings in a demographic the NFL is interested in. That's why I think the XFL has something going on with the NFL network. The NFL wants The Rock to bring in that younger audience. My reasoning, too, is if The Rock is promoting the NFL network where the XFL games are on, that means that the younger generation will know that the NFL network exists and maybe be interested in doing that. And if they do a show on the NFL network, rather than maybe on an NBC, that too will generate interest into the NFL network, that younger demographic. I mean, and then you have Danny Garcia, the XFL chairwoman, that whole story. There's this, you want to bring in a female audience, that we want somebody, people to follow her on your network, plus The Rock. Those two are a home run for any of these networks to want to bring in and do stuff with. So why not be the NFL network? What else are they going to have? Repeats? Let's see. Tuju Master, XFL super fan. It would be NBC's lack of promotion, and I think it was dumb of NBC. Mid finger says, they'd be in on the USFL, but then have The Rock there. That's no big deal about that. Let's see. Nathan Woodside. That's usually the sentiment of, So I posted this. Elon Musk said, why is the traditional media such a relentless hate stream? Real question. I said, I always wonder the same thing. Nathan Woodside says that's usually the sentiment when the truth is inconvenient for your personal interests. Now that might be talking about Elon Musk's personal interest been a hate stream. But as somebody who is not involved with what's going on with Elon Musk or any of this stuff, and is an observer of the media in this country and others, mostly this country, clearly, hate stream sells. Did you know, and this is a fact, and you can look it up, Facebook rewards content with when you can pick like and heart and all this other stuff. Facebook rewards the content that has the hate. So if we were to post an article and people did all the hating, that would get pushed in Facebook's algorithm. That is a 100% factual, accurate thing. I don't know if they do it anymore, but and that's why you get all these people that are pissed off about the world, because all they're doing is getting fed articles and content that pisses them off. The social media companies know that. They doubled and tripled down on it. Then you have craziness ensues. The media companies also know this too. They know if they want you to click, it's got to be a relentless hate stream to get you flip. You notice the media is now hungry off of Joe Rogan. I haven't stopped listening to Joe Rogan for a long time ago because, frankly, I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know, just kind of not into it like it was back in the day. And his shows are long, and he's got like 20 of them a week, and it was just too much, so I stopped listening to him. But I am a Joe Rogan fan. And then all of a sudden he had some dude on, and now people are like freaking out about it, and it's just this constant like run him out of town because those articles elicit a response, so people will now do it. So I get what Nathan Woodside is saying. However, I disagree overall. If you're referring to Elon Musk, yeah, because people are saying bad things about his thing, but hate stream sells. I don't do hate stream on this channel. I will never do it on any of because you can get that somewhere else. I don't care about the hate stream. If you want hate stream and you want to read things that piss you off all the time and make you miserable, go for it. That's not my role here. I'm just informing you, and this is supposed to be fun. It's not that serious. Sports are not that serious. You should never get upset about this stuff. It's not that serious. It should be fun. Remember, it should be fun. That's my goal, is to bring that back to the sporting world where you have, Pardon the Interruption, and you have all these other shows, and they're just talking about the hate stream of, athletes, and this guy's a jerk, and this, that, and the other thing, and James Harden's a jerk, and the Nets are a jerk, and this owner's a jerk, and maybe it's true, and those things should be reported, but sports are supposed to be fun. But media companies, because of their desperation, their bloated budgets, with all these executives and all these other people, they double down on the hate stuff. Trust me, I know. We put out articles all the time about, when early on when things weren't going on, Tim Tebow, that would elicit a response. Johnny Manziel, that would elicit a response. At the time, his name was brought up, and it was tied to these things. His name was tied to fan control football. That's worth reporting. But when Johnny Manziel puts out a tweet about, what he had for breakfast, other people will report on it because that just elicits a response, a hate response. Same thing with Colin Kaepernick. We put it in because Oliver Luck was asked, did you ask Colin Kaepernick? He said he wanted too much money. Could Colin Kaepernick be part of the XFL 3.0? I doubt it. I don't think he will. I think his ship has sailed. But you bring that name up, it pisses people off and it gets views. So I get what you're saying, but come on now. You're in the media. There's hate stream everywhere. When my tweet about football season isn't over, at it's me, Pocono Pete, and still no word from the XFL. At what point do we give up? LOL. I think the 18th we will get something. Connor Folk. Remember Connor Folk worked for Xfl News Hub? Well, he got a pass reporting for Xfl News Hub. We were there at the game together. It was a lot of fun hanging out with him backstage. Real knowledgeable guy. And maybe he will come back to us some point. We will see. But yeah, spring football was was cool. He worked with us at XFL News Hub. I got a bunch of XFL News Hub guys behind the scenes at these games. So, and we look to do that again with the USFL and Fan Control Football and XFL going forward. But yeah, it was 2 years ago on the 8th that the XFL kicked off, and I was there at the game. Very cool, very nostalgic. Can't wait for it to come back. I'm going to be emotional. Put this out. I got next. Pudge, bunch of numbers, says 10 days. Wow, can't believe they aren't promoting it more. I know, bros. 10 days till the draft. About the season not being over, Coach Huston says, hey, Indoor Football League, IFL, begins in March. Arizona Rattlers will be going for their 7th World Championship. There you go. There are other teams out there. When The Rock was out there, I said the boss put that out there. Coach 31B says that by far was the lamest thing I ever saw. Oh, really? Really? Is it the lamest thing I've ever saw? Really? Debbie Downer? Come on. Get out of here with that. You mean it was the lamest thing you ever saw? Really? Because everything sucks. We live in the country, the cynical country where everything sucks. Everything is stupid and everything sucks. Remember, your personality on social media is tied to who you are as a person in real life. Like, there is no discrepancy. If you're a jerk on social media and you're obnoxious on social media, pretty much you're a jerk and obnoxious in real life. That has been studies that have been proven that. And these guys are like, ugh. That's why, like, Twitter can be so awesome. There's great community, and there's just people like, stupid. Get out of here. Get out of here. Don't have any time for that. All right, but you know what we have time for? Some phone calls. Let's do it.
Hello, my name is James Messner, longtime listener, first-time caller. I've commented on a few YouTube videos. I'm watching this show here this week talking about the USFL contract situations and all these things, and I'm an optimist, Mark. I really am. I really try to be an optimist, especially when it comes to these spring leagues, because I want these things to succeed so that more junior college players and college players can live out their football dreams. You know what I mean? I have friends, because I'm young. I'm a 21-year-old college student. I have friends whose dream it is to play college ball and play pro football, but you know, they just don't have enough eyes. You know, they might not have the right amount of tape or the right amount of scouts. I'm having an issue with, first off, locking players in. I know it makes sense for a year, but you want these guys to be able to expand their tape library. You want these guys to be able to get their film out there on YouTube, to other agents that hook them up with pro football teams. I'm having an issue with salary, especially if you're a bench player and you don't get much playing time. And I'm definitely having an issue with the hotel rooms and the housing expenses. If you're going to recruit young junior college guys, young guys out of high school, hey, play professional football, be on NBC, whatever, if you're going to do that, you got to pay for their housing. These junior college kids aren't going to be able to afford, housing. They barely can afford food for themselves. You want them to be in peak physical condition, be able to pursue their education, all this kind of stuff. Pay for their housing. It's the least you could do, and it would entice these players to stick with your league and stay with your league. Also watching the latest episode on the YouTube and wanted to bring up another point about fan-controlled football. I was part of the inaugural season. I was a member of the, well, not a member, but I supported the Glacier Boys and called some of the plays. I think the business model is super good, unlike other leagues. I think they are targeting the younger demographic, which needs to happen. I think the NFT stuff is really cool. I hope that they go into more detail about how that stuff will work, though, because for casual fans who don't really understand anything about non-fungible tokens, or maybe have never even heard of that phrase or that market before. I hope that they can release some instructional videos to make the casual fan maybe feel a lot more safer, because, crypto space is not an easy one. So I hope that they can clear some things up for the more casual viewer, because crypto is complicated and not a lot of people understand it, especially NFTs. So I just wanted to bring up the fact that I also loved the FCF's new stadium. It's going to be a really cool football viewing experience down there in Atlanta, Georgia. And just continued blessings and success for the podcast and for alt football. Because hey, James Mensner here. Left you a couple voicemails. Hopefully you play at least a few of them on the show here. Had another question for you about the podcast specifically. Is your plan to go down to some of these spring football league games, FCF and USFL, and provide coverage? And because you may be able to, I don't know how it works and everything, because I'm not in the media world, but you may be able to even get a press pass and see if you can interview some coaches, some OCs, some defensive coordinators. I think it'd be really cool to get the podcast out there and get some notoriety. Not that you don't have that already, but thanks again. Again, this is James, big fan.
All right, James checking in. A couple messages in there. We'll dissect them. Appreciate the phone caller. Long time, first time, right? I remember hearing to that all the time on WFAN back in the day. But I appreciate you guys checking in. 21-year-old college student. This is the person that they want. They want you. You are so wanted by these big companies. The USFL lock in their contracts. I get it. 2 years is better than 3 years. We'll see how this goes about. The thing is, if the XFL is probably not going to be too concerned with guys who aren't going to get invites to NFL camps. So basically what's going to happen, unless the language changes, is the best players, for the most part, you say 80% of them, are going to get invites, interest into NFL camps. They're going to get released by the USFL. They're going to go to camp, and then the XFL is going to wait. And then when they have their draft, maybe in October, because that's when they originally did. Remember, the XFL had their draft in October, and it was after an NFL cutdown day was when they were really that's when they were trying to sweep up all those players. So those guys might get out of their USFL because they need to be cut in order for them to try out for the NFL. That's just to try out. They need to get cut by the USFL. So all those players in this first year, all the top guys that get a run in the NFL to try out, they need to be let go by the USFL, unless there's some kind of an agreement. Once they're let go by the USFL and then they're cut by the NFL, they are not obligated, as far as I understand, basically on reading all this stuff, they're obligated to go back. So the USFL will be, they're still going to have their players that, were happy playing in the USFL. This first 2 years is going to be so fascinating to sit back and watch. We've been patiently waiting for, and we're going to have this week, I think Friday we'll have some XFL news. I think next week we'll have the USFL draft, which I plan on doing shows as long as we get the players and we get names. If they're going to be like, we're not going to tell you who was drafted until March, I'm going to be like, guys, come on, really? I mean, there's guys even with the XFL, it's okay. The XFL had guys that were drafted and didn't sign with the league. You can still put it out, USFL. Relax. On the hotel thing, yeah, we've talked about it a lot. A lot of people have a problem with the hotel. $150 a night is not cheap. You do that over the course of 30 days. That's a lot of money to fork over for a hotel. I mean, if you could share it with somebody and then it's 75, we'll see how that goes. Even if you just gave them a stipend or something like that. Fan Control Football, Glacier Boy Fan, Team 8 Okie. I wasn't involved with it this year. My man Josh, God rest his soul. Again, say prayers for his family. We definitely miss him. Heard Mike Mitchell talk about Josh and the Markcast this past week. Still, just this sucks when we're doing this stuff and he's not around, because he would be loving this. And Fan Control Football is a mantle that I picked up that he was very passionate about Fan Control Football. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be the Fan Control Football guy. I'm going to get involved. So I wasn't involved last year. I will be this year. As far as instruction video, I will work on that for you guys. I'll put an instruction video, kind of how I did it. It is not easy to on-ramp. Well, it's easier now to on-ramp than it was 6 years ago. On-ramp to crypto. You create a Coinbase account, put some crypto, buy some Ethereum. That gets you in the game. You have to use Ethereum to buy NFTs. The problem with Ethereum, and why I like Cardano better, is the gas fees are ridiculous. So you'll pay, I was playing Axie Infinity, trying to figure out how that game works. And, it was $28 for an Axie guy that you buy. And you have to use Ethereum, but it would cost me, it was like double the price in fees. And that's why I think Ethereum is not going to be the king and Cardano is. But I'll have instruction videos of how you can get involved with that stuff. I am working on that. I wanted to see it all play out. You saw my NFT guy there, so I'll have an instruction on NFTs. But yeah, it's not an easy thing to on-ramp, and if you're not computers, but that's right now. Definitely any of this kind of stuff is super early adopting kind of stuff. As far as traveling to games, that is the plan. I've already talked to the USFL. I've also talked to Fan Control Football, and we are welcome to come in. I know for a fact that people in the USFL, XFL, Fan Control Football all watch and listen to this show in particular. I've heard that from multiple sources out there. So we have an invite to go to any of these games, and I plan on doing it. I plan on trying to take the wife. I'm thinking taking the wife down to Atlanta to go to Fan Control Football in May, and then potentially the USFL championship game to head there for that weekend, that July 4th. Those are kind of tentative plans, plus head up to Canada, check out a Hamilton Tiger Cats game, and then hopefully the Grey Cup as well, just to get out and meet everybody, see the people that I've talked to, on social media or through email, and meet everybody face to face. So yeah, that plan is, and the plan is to go down there and cover all kind of aspects of it, being at the league, being at the event, talking to fans, having a good time. So I am super looking forward to that. As long as revenue from the site is good, that can help pay for some of this stuff, I am all about that. So James, I appreciate the email there. Finally, we got last email. Rick says, any guess on when the rest of the USFL schedule will be released? I don't know. A friend and I intend to make a road trip to see some games. We want to make travel plans. I hear you. I don't know. And we've got a draft in 9 days. So tomorrow, this could all change. Like, here's the schedule. Here's when the draft is going to be. This is what we're going to do. It could all change, but I'm not certain it would. I'm just not certain there. Finally, to get you guys so you get back to your Valentine's Day so I can hang out with my wife and watch some Hallmark movies with my wife and hang out. That's what good husbands do, my friend. That's what good husbands do. Or boyfriends. Okay? It's not all about you and your sports fixations. Let's see. Theodore says, the people who follow the USFL social media already know about the USFL. That's a good point. Seismic Fields, arena football as well. Really cool to see in the indoor game. I went to an indoor lacrosse game. That was a lot of fun. Years ago. CWAO experience. If the USFL has NFTs, I might honestly not support them. That crap is awful for the environment. Okay. That crap is awful for the environment. That clearly CWAO experience has no experience in how NFTs work. Yes, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. There's talk about that. If you really want to get technical, then explain to me the difference between proof of work versus proof of stake and how that's bad for the environment. Answer that question and let me know. If you can answer that, then you do know what you're talking about. Okay? Tell me what the difference between proof of work and proof of stake is. And Ethereum, Cardano, and Bitcoin. What does all that have to do? 111 PB seems dumb not to send a representative or two to Media Week. All that media in one place could have easily gotten the word out at a very little cost. I agree. And one of the things I had thrown out to read is that what if we appeared next? This is my plan. I'll tell you guys my plan. I didn't even tell Reed this. I just kind of messaged him about it. What if next year, Super Bowl week, it'll be the week before the XFL kicks off. Clearly, people are going to talk about the Super Bowl, but they're going to want to talk. They need to fill content. So Reed and I, Paul, get Mike Mitchell down, maybe a couple other guys at XFL News Hub, we come down. Why don't we set up shop on Radio Row? Live show every week, every day during that whole week. One day it's streamed on XFL News Hub. The next day it's streamed on the Markcast, where we interview people, and we're there to talk about the Super Bowl and their experiences, but talk to them about USFL, XFL, Canadian Football League, CFL, and really kind of, I don't know what it costs to get a booth up there. I know people in all these leagues, they can help us out. I think that would be super awesome, and then at the same time, if we're there at the Super Bowl talking to people about the XFL, USFL, we too, those shows could pull us onto those shows, Mike Mitchell, Reed, myself, and talk about the XFL, the USFL, to these other shows that have no idea. So I think it would like across the board and plus networking. I wouldn't even worry about the game. I'd probably fly home on Sunday and not even go to the game because I got to gear up for the XFL kicking off. But I thought that I was thinking about that. I don't know what it costs. I don't know how to do it, but that's something I have in the back of my mind that I'm like, now, I mean, it'd be super expensive. I'm just saying. I'm a big dreamer, and I think big. That's how I do it. Let's see what else. Seismic Films, it's the future of all sports plus the future. Great work. Let's see, Andrew Marie, I would gladly beta test for you. Oh, all right. Talking about beta test for the fantasy. Yes, definitely fantasy. Paladin Demo says, sorry I'm late dealing with kiddo. Oh my goodness, Paladin. He says the radio silence is going to start hurting the USFL if they keep it up. James Henderson, USFL commercial would have had more eyes on it than any other time. I agree with that. What Gary D. Linger says, what does NFTs stand for? Non-fungible tokens. Seismic already got that. Explains it pretty well. Paladin Demo, easily pirated by a right click. Yes, but you can't sell it. You don't own it. That's like going and seeing the Mona Lisa and taking a picture of it. That's all when it comes. But there's so much hate towards NFTs because it's new and it's different. People don't understand it. And that's the funny part. Don't be that person. Change is okay. Okay? Are you the person that has you still got a VCR or a DVD player sitting there blinking 12 because you don't know how to change the clock? This is something new. Listen, I've been in the business, my final rant of the day. I've been in this business for 20 years. 20 years in the tech publishing. I was one of the first ever to do a wrestling podcast. I bought, sold websites. I've been around before there was Facebook, when it was MySpace, when it was Alta Vista was the king, and Yahoo was the king of search. Anytime something new elicits people getting pissed off because they don't understand it, I'm always in. I'm always in, and you will always win. It's like the easiest thing. And the people's reaction to NFTs, I'm like, I've seen this before. I'm all in. They said the same thing about Facebook. They're like, wait, this is Facebook. This is college kids doing Facebook. Now they're all obsessed with it. YouTube. Why would I watch YouTube? I have TV. It's free. Why would I have to go on my television, and why would I look at videos on my phone when I have a TV? YouTube is dumb. It's so dumb. And you're all watching it on YouTube right now. Get out of here. Let's see, Jose. Please, football gods, give us XFL News Friday. I agree. I agree. We will hopefully get that. We will get that soon, my friends. All right, and plus, yes, so we'll have a big announcement next week. Hopefully we get an announcement from the XFL. We'll get a big announcement on fantasy football. You will be hopefully you guys will be part of that. Hopefully we get something from the USFL. The plan is for next week is Monday we'll have the show. Live as always. We'll talk about fantasy football and whatever came down the pike this week. Hopefully if there's some big XFL news, we would go live. If they were like, here's the schedule, here are new team names or something big. I doubt it. I think it's going to be a slow build, and I don't have a problem with that. And I think they should do that. Hopefully I'm looking for some kind of on-ramp to what's to come. And we're going to start building stuff up now because you got to hire coaches. Remember, XFL, June is your combine schedule, and you all need to start getting that going, which means you need to start getting coaches. You need to get coaches. So we have that. So we have fantasy football. Oh, and so when it comes to the draft, if we get stuff on Wednesday night and names and teams, we'll do a live show Wednesday night. And if we get names and teams, we'll do a live show on Thursday night as well. So those 2 nights, we will definitely have full draft recap for you guys as well. All right. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at Xfl News Hub with your thoughts, a recorder or MP3 video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. Leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love that. Hey, did you like the new graphics we got? I think they're working pretty good. Watch the XFL Week in Review live Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll have some special shows next week, my friends. All right, man. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day. Can you imagine how long this show is going to be when there's real news coming in about? It's going to be crazy. So thanks for listening. Mahalo out there. Again, God bless to all you guys out there. So happy. Thank you for being part of our channel. Spread the word about the channel. Remember to like and subscribe. Smash that like button to get the word out. I'm going to leave now. You think I'm going to watch sports? I'm going to watch Hallmark movie with my wife because she is my angel and I love her. And I am very blessed to have her. So God is good to me. God is good. All right, my friends. This is the symbol that matters the most to me. All right. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. God bless. And I will see you all. Hold on, I'm going to cue it up, our new outro. Where's my new outro? Oh, my gosh, where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Later.